Welcome into Mock Trial Masterclass, your guide to controlling the courtroom. I'm Luke and I want you to be a mock trial master. Let's talk about how you can make that happen. I get a lot of questions from you guys about expert witness cross-examination. So I thought it'd be fun if today we watched a really good one and broke down why it is so good. We're going to be watching an attorney from the team that I coach here in Tennessee give a really great cross-examination of a neurosurgeon expert. For a little bit of context, this neurosurgeon has just had a direct examination where he is saying that an injury sustained by the plaintiff basically was caused by something that happened at the defendant's event as opposed to a different event. That's a big dispute in this case, is was he injured well before the issue of the case happened, or did the issue of the case cause the injury? This witness is saying the issue of this case caused the injury, and this cross-examination is going to try to cast some doubt into that opinion. Let's hop in.
Now, Dr. Carton, you're aware that Lee Jasper has been treated for multiple different head injuries by multiple different physicians.
Yes, that is correct.
You are not one of those treating physicians.
No, I am not.
So, in other words, Lee Jasper has never been your patient.
No, he is not.
What he is today is your client.
Correct.
In other words, Lee Jasper and his counsel are paying you to be in court today.
Correct, yes.
And to tell this jury your opinion.
Correct, yes.
All right, so let's talk about that opinion. Now, it is your opinion that Lee Jasper's current symptoms were caused by the head injury that he sustained on August 24th.
All right, that question was a really good example of a signpost, which you absolutely have to have all throughout really any presentation you're doing in mock trial, opening, closing, cross, direct. But what was so good about that is, we're transitioning from one topic to the next. We had that intro section about this witness's bias, his relationship to the plaintiff, about being a client as opposed to the treating physician. And now we're getting into his opinion. And so that very simple phrase, now let's talk about your opinion, clues the jury in on where this is going next. And it's just so effective. You have to have those in your presentations.
That is correct, yes.
You're going as far as to say that that was the sole cause.
Correct, because of the appearance of those new symptoms after that chair incident that did not exist prior.
You're going even further, Dr. Carton, to say that there is no doubt in your mind that that is the sole cause.
Correct, I achieved that conclusion to medical certainty.
In other words, there is no reasonable possibility that any of Lee Jasper's previous injuries could have caused any of his current symptoms.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that, please?
Yes, doctor, you're saying that there is no reasonable possibility that any of Lee Jasper's previous injuries could have caused the symptoms that he is displaying now.
That is correct, yes. There is a possibility, though it is my conclusion to a reasonable degree of medical certainty that the chair incident was the sole cause.
All right.
I wish we had rewritten that question. If the witness is getting confused by a question, especially in a state championship round, a team that's as talented as this team is, it's probably because it's just not a very good question. And hearing it now, way too long, way too many words. You want your cross questions to be a lot tighter, a lot more precise. That one was kind of all over the place. We should have rewritten that one.
All right, let's be realistic with the jury here for a second. Lee Jasper is a professional bull rider.
That is my understanding, yes.
As we already talked about today, bull riding is a dangerous sport.
I'm not sure, I'm not an expert in bull riding, though it seems that it is a bit violent.
A bit violent, notorious for causing head injuries.
Yes, there are generally a number of head injuries associated with bull riding.
And you know that Lee Jasper himself has actually had his fair share of injuries from bull riding in the past.
Yes, a few.
Now, you would agree with me that a hallmark indicator of a traumatic brain injury would be the sort of symptoms that somebody is displaying.
Yes, that is generally correct, yes.
Now, after August 24th, Lee Jasper was exhibiting certain symptoms.
Correct, that were not present prior to the chair incident.
Well, we'll get there in a second, but those...
That was a really good response from that witness. And honestly, that's what's so fun about this cross right here, is it's a spar back and forth between two just top-level, top-flight mock trial competitors. And that little response where she said he was displaying symptoms, and he said, yes, symptoms that didn't occur until the second injury, just furthered his point without him having to take over the room and seem like he was running the clock or running his mouth way too much. Just so effective on both sides here.
Those symptoms included unconsciousness.
Yes, he was knocked unconscious after the chair incident.
headaches,
Yes, as well.
dizziness,
Yes.
and then witness reports of short-term memory loss.
Yes, as well.
All right, now you're aware that Lee Jasper suffered another head injury just a month prior in July, right?
Correct, yes.
And after that injury, he also started displaying certain symptoms.
Yes, that is correct.
Those symptoms included unconsciousness,
He was also knocked unconscious after that incident.
headache,
Yes, as Exhibit F displays, yes.
dizziness,
Yes, also correct.
and witness reports of short-term memory loss.
No, Exhibit F does not display any memory loss. In fact, it says denies memory loss.
Well, Dr. Carton, I'm not asking you about Exhibit F here. I'm asking you, were there witness reports of short-term memory loss?
Yes, that is correct.
Two things to point out here. First of all, the reason that she's having to break all these symptoms down into individual questions is because you don't want to ask a witness what's called a compound question, where you say, now he had these injuries, he had the brain damage, and he had the memory loss, and he had this, because it puts the witness in an uncomfortable position where if they want to disagree with one part of that question, it becomes tricky for them to. So you want to avoid that and instead break things down and give the witness a chance to agree or disagree with each individual component of that list. So very well done there. What Manhattan also did a really good job of here is kind of rolling with the punches. The witness answered her question in a way that she wasn't expecting. She said, there were reports of memory loss. He said, well, Exhibit F here doesn't say that. And she could have just, floundered and said, oh, okay, let's move on. But she said, I'm not asking about Exhibit F. I'm asking, was there a report of memory loss? And he said, yes. And he was stuck with it because of her specificity that she came back around with. Brilliant, brilliant job.
All right. Now, you would agree with me that brain injuries are very serious.
Yes, that is correct.
If someone experiences head trauma and then starts going through symptoms, they should seek medical attention right away.
Generally, depends on the severity of the certain symptoms. Headaches are pretty common but might not require medical diagnosis or medical treatment.
I'm going to direct you back to my question. You would say that if someone experiences head trauma and then starts exhibiting symptoms, they should seek medical attention.
Generally, yes.
All right. Now, they certainly should not refuse to seek medical attention, right?
That is correct. That is generally not the right practice.
You would agree with me that it would be unacceptable if they were to go seek medical attention and then leave against medical advice.
What's really good about that question is it took the question before it and kind of theatricalized it, if that's a word. The question before that was, it's against good practice, or it's not the best practice to refuse medical treatment. Yes. And then we kind of played it out and we said, so what you're telling us is that if someone were to walk into a doctor's office and then leave refusing medical treatment, that wouldn't be good. And what we've done is we've kind of played that out in a scenario. It's a very advanced level tactic going on here in this cross, but just little things that you can do like that to draw things out, make it a little more compelling for the jury. It's going to help you go really, really far.
Yes, that is not the practice that is generally, commended.
All right, well, let's talk about Lee Jasper's practice here for a second. You have a copy of Exhibit F up on the witness stand with you?
I do.
All right, now if you'll read along silently as I read aloud. It says the date of this walk-in clinic visit was August 17th.
Correct, yes.
Dr. Carton, that was a month after the Wichita, Kansas incident.
That was.
If we drop down here to the assessment section, it then says that based on symptoms, he was recommended a CT scan to rule out brain injury. Did I read that correctly?
You did, yes.
It then says that the patient, Lee Jasper, declined and left against medical advice. Read that correctly?
You did, yes.
All right. Now, Dr. Carton, one thing you can agree with me on is that brain injuries can be kind of difficult to diagnose, right?
Not necessarily, no.
Well,
I disagree with that.
Pardon, you continue.
I'm saying I disagree with that. Brain injuries are pretty easy to diagnose.
Well, unlike bone fractures, where you can, say, pull up an x-ray and point to it, brain injuries are at least more elusive.
No, I disagree with that.
Dr. Carton, would you agree with me that it's common for there to be disagreement among doctors as to the cause of a brain injury?
There is, based off of the different factors that cause that injury.
And that's exactly what we have here in this case between you and our defense expert, Dr. Boone.
Yes, that is my understanding.
Which is why it's very important that this jury get a full picture of what's at stake for you in this trial today. So you're currently in the process of writing a book on foreign accent syndrome, right?
What I want to go ahead and point out here is that this expert cross is doing a really good job of hitting the three important beats that every expert cross needs to hit. It needs to hit credibility. We need to hear about who this person is, what their weaknesses are. It needs to hit methods. We've heard some about that. The X-ray question got into that a little bit that we just talked about, right? With this idea of brain injuries are hard to diagnose. It's not this exact science thing. You were relying on, things other people had to say. It's not the best methods, we could have possibly ever had in the world, at least compared to some other situations. And then 3 is their actual opinion and the, way that holds up or doesn't hold up. All 3 of those beats have been hit in spades kind of over and over again, pinball style throughout this cross. But as a starting point when you're writing an expert cross, that's a great place to look. Credibility, methods, in other words, the way they perform their research, their investigation, and then results, and cross on that.
Correct, yes.
And Lee Jasper is your primary subject.
Yes, that is correct.
You thank Lee Jasper for the opportunity to make your dream of becoming a published author a reality.
I was going to write that book regardless of Mr. Jasper's presence. Having a case of such a rare condition so close to me, Mr. Jasper was the prime subject.
Dr. Carton, I'm going to ask you my question again, and I'll need a yes or a no. You thank Lee Jasper for this opportunity.
What I want to point out about that right there, that is such a more palatable way to get your yes than, so that's a yes to my question. I absolutely hate that phrase. It is way overused. It usually comes across as very pejorative and combative and kind of gross and sassy. But he didn't answer with a yes. She asked, isn't it true that this thing? And he, well, da, 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 da. And so she didn't go, so that's a yes to my question. And she just said, sir, but redirecting you to my question, or I'm going to ask you that question again, very kindly, just kind of bringing the witness back to the question, masterfully done there.
Opportunity.
Yes, as in agreeing to be my subject.
Thank you, Dr. Carton. I have no further questions.
Just a very, very good expert cross that you can model yours after. If you want to know more about expert crosses or cross in general, I'd love to come sit with your team and talk about it. I coach teams all over the country over Zoom. I also work with individual competitors, and I'd love to do that with you and your team to get you better at cross or any other component at mock trial that you want to learn more about. And if you want to set up a time with me or just learn a little bit more about what that looks like, you can click a link in the description on YouTube or in the show notes on podcast platforms. But this right here is a great place to start too. Just model your expert cross after this one. You'll be in great shape.